This is the most important piece of infrastructure in America that almost nobody has heard of. It's a tunnel. Actually, two tunnels. They're both over 100 years old, they're both sinking, and if either one fails completely, it could paralyze the economic engine of the entire Northeast United States. This is the story of the Gateway program, and why fixing two century-old tunnels has become one of the most expensive, most politically fraught infrastructure fights in the country. Let's get into it. Underneath the Hudson River, connecting New York and New Jersey, sit two single-track rail tunnels built in 1910. They were engineering marvels in their day. Today, they're the single biggest bottleneck on the entire Northeast Corridor, the busiest rail line in America, carrying more than 200,000 passengers a day between Washington, Boston, and everywhere in between. Here's the problem. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy sent millions of salt water surging into these tunnels. That water has spent the last decade slowly corroding critical infrastructure, the concrete lining, the electrical systems, the signal equipment, every single day, hour after hour, in ways that aren't always visible from the outside, but are absolutely accelerating toward failure. So why does this actually matter beyond New York and New Jersey commuters? Because if even one of these two tunnels has to close for emergency repairs, capacity through the corridor doesn't just get cut in half. Estimates from transportation planners suggest it could effectively shut down around 75% of rail capacity between New York and New Jersey, since the remaining single tunnel would need to handle both directions of traffic on a system that was never designed to operate that way. The ripple effects would extend far beyond rail passengers too. This corridor carries Amtrak's busiest line in the country, feeds directly into some of the largest commuter rail systems in America, and underpins an enormous share of the economic activity that flows through the New York metropolitan area, which by itself accounts for a significant chunk of the entire US economy. Let's rewind and understand how we got to this point. The original two tunnels were part of the Pennsylvania Railroad's original push into Manhattan in the early 20th century, engineering achievements that let trains cross directly under the Hudson for the first time, instead of relying on ferries. For most of the century, they worked exactly as intended, but rail traffic has grown enormously since then, especially as highway congestion and environmental pressure have pushed more travelers toward trains. And these two century-old tunnels have had to absorb nearly all of that growth without any additional capacity. Planning for new tunnels actually began decades ago. A previous project called ARC, Access to the Region's Core, got years into design and even broke ground before being canceled in 2010 due to cost concerns and a change in state leadership. That cancellation alone is estimated to have cost hundreds of millions of dollars in sunk planning costs and set the eventual replacement effort back by years at exactly the moment the existing tunnels were beginning to seriously deteriorate. The current effort, the Gateway program, restarted in earnest after Hurricane Sandy made the urgency impossible to ignore, but turning urgency into actual construction has been its own decade-long saga. So what exactly does the Gateway program actually involve, and why has it taken so long to get moving? At its core, the plan is to build an entirely new two-track tunnel under the Hudson River, allowing the existing century-old tunnels to finally be taken offline one at a time for a full, deep rehabilitation, without cutting corridor capacity in the process. It's not just a tunnel project either. The broader program includes a new rail bridge in New Jersey to replace an aging swing bridge that's prone to getting stuck when it opens for marine traffic, upgrades to Newark's rail infrastructure, and eventually an expansion of New York's Penn Station itself, which currently operates well beyond the capacity it was ever designed for. The price tag for the core tunnel project alone runs above $16 billion, with the broader program, including all its associated components, estimated well beyond that once fully built out. For a piece of infrastructure that to most people is just a dark tunnel they sit in for a few minutes on their commute, that's an enormous number, and it's been a major source of political friction for years. Funding for a project this size has always required cooperation between multiple layers of government: federal transportation funding, New York State, New Jersey, and the Port Authority, along with Amtrak. That kind of multi-party funding arrangement is inherently fragile. Every time political leadership changes at any one of those levels, funding commitments can be renegotiated, delayed, or in some cases pulled back entirely, which is exactly what happened for years during the previous decade when federal funding support for the project was significantly reduced. More recently, funding commitments have been restored and construction has genuinely gotten underway on key early components, but the program has continued to face turbulence. Earlier this year, a roughly 2-week construction shutdown tied to funding uncertainty reportedly cost the project millions of dollars and pushed back key tunnel contracts, with officials warning that further funding gaps could force additional halts. It's a pattern that's become almost a defining feature of how Gateway gets built. Real, meaningful progress interrupted periodically by exactly the kind of political and financial uncertainty that delayed the project for over a decade in the first place. Now let's talk about the engineering itself, because tunneling under an active, heavily used river corridor next to 2 operational century-old tunnels is genuinely one of the more delicate construction challenges in American infrastructure right now. The new tunnel has to be bored close enough to the existing 2 tunnels to make sense operationally, but far enough and carefully enough sequenced that construction vibrations and ground movement don't further destabilize infrastructure that's already compromised by a decade of saltwater corrosion. Engineers have had to model ground behavior extensively to ensure that boring the new tunnel doesn't accelerate settlement or structural stress on the tunnels still actively carrying passenger trains every single day throughout construction. There's also the sheer complexity of building underneath one of the busiest waterways on the East Coast, navigating existing utility infrastructure, other subway and rail tunnels already crossing beneath the Hudson, and environmental permitting tied to a major tidal river ecosystem. Boring machines used for projects like this need to be sized and configured specifically for the geology beneath the Hudson, which includes a mix of soft sediment and harder bedrock that changes across the length of the crossing, requiring careful engineering to keep the tunnel boring machine performing consistently. Once the new tunnel opens, the truly critical phase begins, taking each of the existing century-old tunnels fully offline, one at a time, for a complete rehabilitation. That means gutting corroded infrastructure down to bare concrete in some sections, replacing electrical and signaling systems that have been degrading since 2012, and essentially rebuilding the interior of each historic tunnel while keeping the other operational tunnel, plus the new one, absorbing all corridor traffic in the meantime. So where does this leave the Northeast Corridor right now? Construction on the new tunnel's approach structures and key contracts are underway, with a full opening for the new tunnel targeted towards the early 2030s, followed by years more of sequential rehabilitation work on the existing century-old tunnels after that. It's a timeline that, even in the best case, means the region will be relying on infrastructure that's well over 100 years old, sitting in a compromised state for years to come. What's clear is that Gateway represents something different from a lot of the flashy mega projects that dominate headlines. There's no dramatic rendering of a futuristic skyline, no billionaire founder live streaming a groundbreaking. It's fundamentally about keeping an already existing, already essential piece of infrastructure from failing, which turns out to be a much harder story to tell and a much harder case to make politically. But the economic stakes attached to 2 rusting, waterlogged, century-old tunnels may be higher than almost any single megaproject currently under construction in America. For now, tunnel boring continues beneath the Hudson. Funding fights continue in Washington and Trenton and Albany. And somewhere under New York Harbor, 2 tunnels built when Woodrow Wilson was president keep absorbing saltwater damage one day at a time while their replacement slowly, expensively makes its way toward completion. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and want more from the definitive channel covering the world's biggest infrastructure stories, make sure you're subscribed to Apex Infra.